Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. It's your host, Seerat here, and today we're going to dive deep into some common stress factors in high school, how we can cope with them, and how to navigate friendships along with all the other activities we do. This topic is really relevant in today's life, as we all have felt some level of stress, whether it's to reach a place on time, finish assignments by the deadline, or perform in front of an audience. We will be interviewing Sania Khanzode, a high school senior, because she has experience and has walked the path of high school, college applications, and like all of us, navigated friendships. Before we begin, Sania, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Sania. I am a senior at Homestead High School. And obviously, yes, I've been in high school for 4 years, so I do know a little bit about what it's like, and I am really excited to talk to you guys today.
That's so cool. I'm in eighth grade and I'll be starting high school in August. So, our first question is, what were some stress factors in your life?
Yeah, so the stress factors in my life were honestly no different from any other high schoolers. School is a pretty big one. You have to manage all of your assignments, get everything in on time, do well on tests, keep a good, GPA. So school is definitely a big one. I mean, outside of school, you have all of your clubs, you have all of your, research, extracurriculars, things like that. So those also play a pretty big role in stressing you out in high school. And I think above all is just kind of the balancing act of it. So trying to figure out when am I going to do my homework? When am I going to go to practice? When am I going to, do my like club activities? When am I going to, hang out with my friends? So there's all of those things that you have to kind of figure out, and that balancing act can get pretty stressful.
Yeah, I agree. The balancing is hard for me too. If I'm starting to get good at one thing, then I start falling behind in the other activity. So, what were some other stress factors you've noticed in other high schoolers?
Yeah, so I think a big one is a lot of high schoolers that are like student athletes. So they'll be playing a sport while, being in school and trying to manage everything else. They, are genuinely pretty stressed out just because it's not that easy to, be at practice for 3 hours every day after school and not have that time to do your homework and then come home and you're tired and, things like that. So I played track, I did track, cross country, and I also played softball. So things like that would be I would go to practice right after school and then I would come home. I would be exhausted and I wouldn't really be able to focus on my homework. And then I had to wake up early in the morning and do my homework. And so that was a pretty stressful schedule when it would happen. Yeah, a lot of student athletes have a pretty tough time also and are pretty stressed out because they have a lot to do.
I've also noticed that sports is a really big extracurricular that a lot of kids at our school do, and I also do some. So, how were you able to cope with the stress factors in your life? What were some coping strategies that worked for you?
So I would say probably the biggest one is, I guess it's not really a coping strategy, but it would just be like make sure that you're enjoying all of the things that you're doing outside of school. So obviously, like you're not going to love school all the time. You're not going to love studying for tests or doing assignments, but it really, really, really does help if all of your extracurriculars or things that you're doing outside of school are things that you really enjoy doing. So, for example, like I was part of like Homestead Indo-Pac, which was like our like Indian and like South Asian kind of representation club, and I was like on a dance team, and that was something that I found really fun and exciting. And so when I had to do that, I didn't like dread it, I would actually really enjoy it, and it would, be something that would really get my mind off of other things. So things like that where you are doing things like obviously everyone is going to do things because they look good on college apps. It's just how it is. But it really does help if you genuinely enjoy those things because those things are going to come through in your college apps if you really enjoy them. And you're going to be a lot better at them if you actually enjoy them. So just making sure that like you're picking activities and you're picking to be involved in things that you genuinely want to do and you genuinely enjoy doing. So that would be one thing. Another thing is obviously just managing your time. So like I said, when I was, doing cross country and track, I would come home really tired because, you're running a lot and then you're you're showering, eating dinner. By the time you start your homework, it's like 9, and then you have maybe like an hour or two before you start feeling really tired and you need to go to bed. So what I would do is I would like do all of like the you know, easy homework at night, like the kind of busy work. And then I would wake up in the morning and I would do like kind of the more homework that requires more energy and more, I guess, like willpower. And obviously, like that doesn't work for everyone, but just finding out a time management schedule that works really well for you and making sure that like when you look at your calendar, you'll know that you'll have everything done. That is really like that like takes the pressure off a lot. So I would say, yeah, definitely managing your time well and figuring out a time management plan that works for you. If you don't want to come home and grind out all of your homework in 3 hours, you don't have to do that. But just making sure that you are having a time to do that and then having a time to be with your friends, having a time to go to practice, things like that. So making sure that you're like compartmentalizing everything and are planning it all out.
I agree. Time management is a really big one that can help. Are there any other ways that you have noticed of how others cope with their stress?
Yeah, so I have friends that, you know, really like coming home and just getting all of their homework out of the way really early in the day. So they'll, come home, sit down for like 2 hours, they'll get it all done. Then they'll, have the rest of the day to work on other things and, spend time with their family at night. And, they're like really happy that way because they're not super like stressed out into the night and they're not like studying late and they're getting good sleep and things like that. So, doing your homework right after school, I know is a pain and a lot of people don't like doing it, but I've seen it work really well for a lot of people. Another thing I've noticed like a lot of my friends do is they will try to get things done on like Friday night. So like instead of having like their whole weekend where they're just like sleeping away just like they did in the weekday. They'll try to get all of their homework and stuff out of the way on Friday night so that they have the weekend to like relax and be with their friends and, you know, wind down a little bit. So using the weekends is also really good for, helping to cope with all of the crazy stuff that's going on. And it gives you a lot more time. So if you get your stuff done earlier, you'll just inevitably have more time and will feel more relaxed.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've also a few times finished everything off on Friday for my weekend to be free. So I've understood that lots of way to cope with stress, but how about friendships? Are they a stress factor in high school?
Yeah, I mean, friendships are definitely a stress factor for some people, less of a stress factor for others. It just kind of depends on your situation and who you are and who your friends are. I've been really fortunate that I have really good friends and, they've always been really supportive and they've, you know, always been very, nice people that I can turn to all the time. So friendships haven't really been too big of a stress factor for me personally, but they definitely are a stress factor in high school overall.
That's interesting. So how did you navigate friendships throughout high school? What were some challenges that you faced regarding friendships?
Yeah, so for me, I think my biggest challenge with friendships in general would probably just be like, because we're all so busy, is just like finding a time to like meet up and like, prioritizing my friendships as well as my schoolwork and other things. So I would say like that challenge is definitely hard to navigate because, everyone is just busy and that's just kind of how it is. You know, planning things in advance with your friends and making, plans that you're looking forward to with them, that's something that's really helpful. So like, let's just say like if today is like April 3rd, then like and I want to do something with them soon. Like I'll just be like, hey guys, like let's hang out like 3 weekends from now. And everyone will like put that into their calendars. Everyone will like be like, okay, like I'm gonna get all my stuff done before then, and then we can hang out and we'll have a good time. So that's something that worked pretty well for like my friends because we were all so busy. And I think it's just a lot easier to manage your friendships when you have really good friends. And so like I've been fortunate enough to have friends that genuinely want the best for me and friends who I genuinely want the best for. And so I think when you go into high school, it's a new place, but it's really important to like find your tribe and find people that are genuinely happy for the things that you're doing and, people that that you'll be genuinely happy for as well.
Oh, that's nice. I like the part where you said that they'll be happy for you and you'll be happy for them instead of competing with each other. So now moving on, what advice do you have for rising ninth graders about how to manage high school overall?
Yeah, so I mean, high school is a big journey. It's 4 years. It does go by quicker than you think. And I know it's pretty daunting when you come in because everyone is older than you. You're in a new place, you don't know where anything is. I would just say, like, use ninth grade to really like figure yourself out and kind of like orient yourself into what you want to do in high school. When I was in ninth grade, I joined like 10 clubs and I, went to their meetings. I figured out what I liked. I figured out what I didn't like. And once you figure out the things that you like, you can kind of start pursuing them more. Like I joined a dance team in ninth grade and I really liked it. And so I kept pursuing it and that was really fun. And then I also, joined like my school's like business club in ninth grade and I didn't really like it. So I didn't pursue it. And so there's things like that where you just have to, kind of feel it out. So use ninth grade to feel it out because you're going to have a lot more time this year than you will have in the next few years because, those years just tend to be more stressful as you get older and your course load gets harder. So explore as many things as possible in ninth grade, figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at, and where you're going to go from there. And then just keep building off of those things when you go in high school.
I'll definitely keep those in mind when I go to high school. So the process of college applications has recently ended. So what advice would you give to rising seniors about applications?
Yeah, so I would say, college apps are definitely tough. You're a first semester senior, so you have to keep up your grades while also doing your college apps and everything else that you're doing outside of school. So it's definitely not easy because college apps are like a whole nother extracurricular. I would say for essays, especially, because I know that's the biggest part of it for most people, is if you're ever having like writer's block and you just need to get something out, just start writing. That was like a huge thing for me is like I would have insane writer's block and then like I wouldn't be able to write anything and I would just be sitting at my computer for like 2 hours not writing a word. And so my thing was I would just be like, okay, like I'm gonna write like anything, so I would just like if the prompt was like, what makes you happy? I'll just like make a list of things that make me happy and I'll just start writing, you know. Obviously that's not an actual prompt, but it's just an example. But yeah, so just start writing, start getting things onto your paper. You'll figure out what you like about it. You'll figure out what you don't like about it. You can always edit as much as you can. It's very important. And yeah, it's also really helpful to have other people go over your essays, go over your application, give you advice, because like honestly, like you want as many people to, see it and understand what you're doing as possible. So I would say that's a big thing as well. And then the other thing would be to get a head start on it in the summer. I know everyone says this and no one does it, but it genuinely really helped that I got like a good amount of my essays done in the summer because I could not have imagined doing more essays like in the, final weeks of the school year because that's when a lot of apps are due and you're just like, oh my God, like I have school and I have finals, but I also have to write this essay that's literally due tomorrow. Your essays will be better if you have more time to work on them and you have more people to edit them. So definitely just start everything really early, get a head start on all of it, and you will feel so much better that you don't have to do apps in like, the new year or just in general. It just is really nice when you're done. So get started early.
Mhm. I think that we can also use some of the tips you suggested for other things besides college apps, like the essay writing and the writer's block. I think when I experience writer's block, I'm going to try those now. So, in conclusion, thank you so much, Sania, for coming and sharing your experience with us. It's really easy to remember and follow tips that are given from someone who has walked the path before us. So, thank you so much for coming to share your experience and coping strategies with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for listening.